On the 14th of August, 2023, at 2:47 a.m., Jennifer Torres saw something no zookeeper training prepares you for. She was making her usual rounds through the silent grounds, the only sounds distant animal calls and her boots on the pavement.
The quiet felt different tonight. Thicker, heavier.
The great ape house loomed ahead, its glass walls dark and unreadable under the moonlight. She keyed in her code and pushed the heavy door open, expecting the familiar shuffle of sleeping gorillas.
But the usual sounds were absent.
Instead, every primate, silverbacks, chimps, orangutans, stood upright at the front of their enclosures, motionless. Their eyes were fixed on a point she couldn't see, their bodies aligned like soldiers awaiting a command.
They didn't turn. They didn't acknowledge her at all.
Jennifer Torres stood frozen, her flashlight beam trembling on the glass. The clock on the wall glowed 2:47 a.m. To understand what she saw that night, you need to know what 6 years of nights taught her about this zoo. Her first clue came in year 1, during a routine check of the elephant enclosure.
She felt the ground tremble before she heard the rumble, a deep vibration from the elephant's chest.
20 minutes later, a minor quake rattled the city. The elephant had known. Months later, in the aviary, she noticed the birds fallen absolutely still before a storm.
Not a single chirp. They knew the lightning was coming long before the first flash.
Over the years, she learned to read the animals like a weather vane for things humans couldn't perceive.
They were the zoo's early warning system, and she trusted them completely.
But nothing in those 6 years prepared her for the sight inside the great ape house. That August night, the building sat silent, but inside, a vigil was already underway. But that vigil began hours earlier, with her usual routine, and with Dave, the supervisor who taught her to listen. At 11 p.m., she found Dave in the control room, coffee in hand, eyes on the monitor bank.
Quiet night, Torres, or are you hoping for some excitement?
Quiet is good, Dave. These animals earn their rest.
Sometimes the quiet before the storm is the loudest thing in this zoo.
She left for her rounds, the silence settling heavier than usual.
He was always saying things like that, but tonight, the words stuck to her like warning labels.
By 2 a.m., the zoo had gone completely still. Not even the night birds stirred.
She felt it in her bones, the same premonition the elephants had.
And then, flashlight cutting the dark, she reached the great ape house. She paused at the glass doors, her flashlight beam trembling on the dark panes.
The air felt charged, like before a lightning strike, but the sky was clear.
Across the path, the reptile house lights flickered, once, twice, then died for 3 long seconds.
That never happens. The backup generators should have kicked in instantly.
No thunder, no storm, just a silent pulse of darkness rolling through the zoo. She turned back to the ape house, her hand unsteady on the cold door handle.
Don't be stupid. It's just a power fluctuation, just a normal night.
But the animals she trusted most, the ones who sensed quakes and storms, were utterly silent.
They never go silent, unless there's something they don't want to hear.
She pressed her badge to the reader. The lock clicked, and the door hissed open into the dark. The door swung shut behind her, swallowing the last sliver of moonlight. The air inside felt dead. No scent, no movement, no sound but her own pulse. She raised her flashlight. Every primate stood upright at the glass, facing the same direction.
Hey, what's happening? Anybody want to tell me what's going on?
They didn't blink. The silverback's eyes were fixed on the northwest wall, ignoring her completely.
They're facing the same way as the birds did before the storm. Only this isn't weather.
The digital clock flicked to 2:48. She'd been inside for 60 seconds.
They're not asleep. They're waiting, and I am standing in the middle of it.
Her hand trembled as she unclipped the radio from her belt.
Dave, you need to get down here. The apes, they're all standing. None of them are moving.
Hold your position, Torres. Do not try to interact with them.
Why? What's happening? Have you seen this before?
Just observe. I'll be there soon. Don't do anything.
The radio hissed into silence. Jennifer stared at it, then turned back to the glass. The apes hadn't moved. At 2:55, nothing had changed. The apes remained like stone statues, their eyes fixed on the same northwest wall.
He knows something. This isn't the first time this has happened. She could hear it in his voice.
By 3:05, the silence had become a physical weight, pressing against her ribs with every breath. She considered calling him again, but her hand froze halfway to the radio, afraid of what he might say. At 3:15, she felt it. A low-pressure shift rippling through the hall, like the whole building was holding its breath, waiting alongside the apes.
What are they waiting for? And why won't he tell me the truth?
She pulled out her phone and checked the USGS earthquake alerts. Nothing. She tried to rationalize. A tremor, a collective seizure, some twisted animal instinct. It didn't fit. Then the floor hummed, a low vibration that climbed through her boots and into her spine, through her direction.
They're not reacting to me. They're listening to something I can't hear.
Every pair of eyes lined up on the northwest wall, unblinking, like compass needles frozen in place. This wasn't a rogue elephant sensing tremors. This was something the textbooks had no entry for. She checked her compass, precisely 315 degrees northwest. Every ape aimed at the same invisible point. The pressure in the room dropped again. Her eardrums popped with a soft click.
Whatever this was, it wasn't natural. And Dave definitely knew more than he was saying.
At 3:22, the apes still stood motionless. The clock seemed to slow as the minute hand crept toward the half hour. At 3:23, Jennifer lifted her phone with trembling fingers and began recording the impossible.
If anyone sees this footage, they'll think she broke protocol. But this was evidence.
She pressed the record button and whispered, her voice swallowed by the dead air.
It's 3:24 a.m. Every primate is standing upright. None of them have moved since 2:47. 37 minutes and counting.
On the grainy security monitor, her lone figure moved slowly past cages filled with motionless primates.
The floor was humming again, a deep, subterranean tone that vibrated through the concrete into her bones.
The clock struck 3:25. The minute hand seemed to drag itself across the face.
She felt it now. A charge in the air, like the moment before a lightning strike. Only this wasn't weather.
At 3:26, a single movement shattered the stillness. The silverback's nostrils flared.
Her heart slammed against her ribs. The 41st minute was almost here.
At exactly 3:28, the second hand swept past the 12, and the clock's minute digit flicked forward. A single deep thud resonated through the building, like a massive heartbeat, felt rather than heard. Then, in perfect synchrony, every primate sat down. Not gradual, instant. A single fluid motion across every enclosure. The silverback settled onto his haunches, blinked once, and began grooming his forearm. A chimpanzee yawned. An orangutan reached lazily for a hanging toy. The vigil was over.
41 minutes of frozen silence, and now they're acting like nothing happened.
One of the chimps met her eyes, a quick, almost dismissive glance, then turned away and resumed eating. The oppressive weight lifted. Air began to move again, carrying the familiar musk of primate enclosures.
She realized she had been holding her breath. She let it out in a shaky exhale that fogged the glass.
She lowered her phone, the recording still running. The video would later show exactly 2 hours of nothing. Silence, then 60 seconds of bewildered breathing. Jennifer stepped out of the great ape house into the gray pre-dawn. The zoo gates were still locked, the world silent. In the keeper locker room, she sank onto the bench, staring into her open locker without seeing it.
Every muscle ached, but her mind replayed the synchronized sit-down, the casual yawn. It was deliberate.
Footsteps behind her. Dave's reflection appeared in the locker mirror, his face unreadable.
Taurus, you look rough. Go home. It was probably just a weird one-off.
A one-off? I've never seen anything like that in 6 years. You know it's not.
Animals do strange things. Don't read too much into it. Get some sleep.
But she heard the lie beneath his calm, a crack in the practiced denial, and it kindled a stubborn fire.
I am not letting this go. The zoo's environmental sensors record everything. Seismic, acoustic, pressure. There will be data.
She drove home as the sun broke the horizon, but sleep never came. Only the cold decision to access the logs the next day. The next afternoon, Jennifer sat in the zoo's climate monitoring office, the hum of servers filling the small room. She logged in with her keeper credentials and navigated to the infrasound archive for the 14th of August. The screen filled with flat lines of routine data. until 3:27 a.m., when a sharp spike shot across the graph. She stared at the timestamp, 3 hours 28 minutes and 0 seconds, the exact moment the apes had sat down. She pulled up the concurrent security footage. The apes frozen at 3 hours 27 minutes and 59 seconds. Then the simultaneous drop at 3 hours 28 minutes and 0 seconds. It wasn't a tremor. It was a low-frequency pulse, infrasound, traveling at a range humans can't hear. She traced the directional label, 315 degrees, northwest, the same bearing the apes had faced for 41 minutes.
There was a real signal. Something physical had triggered them, and Dave had known.
She checked the magnitude. The pulse wasn't local. It had been recorded by sensors across the entire San Diego basin. She gathered the printouts, her jaw set. Whatever this was, it had traveled from far beyond the zoo's perimeter. She found Dave in the control room, staring at the monitors as if willing the cameras to rewind.
Explain this. She slapped the printouts onto the console beside his coffee cup.
He glanced at them, and the color drained from his face. Where did you get these?
From the zoo's own sensors. There was an infrasound pulse at 3:28 from the northwest, same direction the apes faced.
He didn't answer. He stared at the spike on the graph, his hand trembling slightly. Then he stood and walked to a gray metal cabinet, producing a small key from his pocket.
I was afraid of this. I'd hoped you'd let it go.
He unlocked the cabinet and withdrew a thick logbook bound in dark leather, the spine cracked with age.
This isn't the first night they've stood like that. It's happened before.
He opened the cover, and Jennifer saw columns of dates, each with a direction and a brief note in faded ink. Dave turned the pages slowly, each one holding a log entry with a precise date, time, and compass bearing.
How many? How far back do these records go?
17. The first was November 7th, 1974. Every time, the ape stood and faced a direction.
She traced her finger over the faded ink of the oldest entry. The handwriting was different, but the format identical. A crude drawing in the margin showed an ape standing upright, one arm raised toward the sky.
She hadn't noticed before, but each bearing was different. Not all northwest. Some aimed south, east, west.
An old photograph tucked into the logbook showed keepers from decades ago, one holding this same book.
He closed the book. I can't explain why, but the apes always point toward something.
Toward what, Dave? You've had decades to figure this out. What aren't you telling me?
He looked away, and the silence stretched. The logbook held the answers, but the map inside remained sealed.
If they aren't random, Dave, then what's at the other end of those bearings?
I can't tell you that. Some things are better left in the dark.
Then why keep the records? Why pass this logbook down if it's supposed to be forgotten?
Because someone has to know. But knowing and acting are two different things. You are not to act on this.
He turned and locked the logbook inside the cabinet, the key scraping against old metal.
Go home. Forget what you saw. It's over.
She nodded stiffly, but her mind was already racing. 17 sets of direction data. She had seen enough to start.
She left the control room with heavy footsteps, but inside, a fire had been lit.
Dave was wrong. She couldn't forget. If something was out there, the apes had been telling them for decades. Someone had to listen.
By the time she reached her truck, she had already decided to map the coordinates herself, no matter the cost. That night, she sat at her kitchen table, the image of the logbook pages burned into her memory.
She'd only glimpsed the entries, but she recalled 17 sets of compass bearings. Enough to start.
She opened a mapping application on her laptop, her fingers trembling as she entered the first coordinate. One by one, she plotted the directions from the zoo's center, a point on the map where the ape house stood.
They weren't all the same. Some aimed north-northwest, others almost due west. It looked like a fan.
She extended each bearing out across the digital map, thin lines radiating like spokes from a hub.
They all go northwest, but not the same northwest.
She switched to a larger map, zooming out to the coast. The lines continued over the city, then over the ocean.
They weren't random. They were aiming at something in the Pacific, but the angles were slightly different. like tracking a moving target.
She scribbled "yet" on a sticky note and pressed it onto the map. Whatever they were waiting for, it hadn't surfaced. She stayed awake until 4 a.m., eyes burning, cross-referencing every bearing with naval charts. Then she called a private oceanographic institute, her voice hoarse with fatigue.
I am looking for any structure, any anomaly at these coordinates. Anything at all.
The researcher on the line paused, then gave a flat denial. Nothing, no record. She pulled up satellite images herself. Pixel by pixel, she scanned the sea. There was only water. Endless, undisturbed Pacific water, reflecting nothing but moonlight. Over the following nights, she barely slept, haunted by the lines on her map.
The apes were pointing at something, but the coordinates were just a loose cloud. She needed the convergence point.
Dave had the master map. He'd known for decades. She dialed his number at dawn.
Tomorrow morning, the truth. Or I take what I have to the zoo board.
They met in the basement archive, a room smelling of old paper and buried truths. She spread her map across the table, the 17 lines extending into the ocean.
I've come this far. You have the overlay. Show me where they all lead.
Dave exhaled slowly and drew a rolled transparency from his pocket. He laid it over her lines. The fan of bearings tightened into a single point, 240 miles offshore.
Right there, nothing but water, and whatever's been singing to the apes since 1974.
Singing? You mean the infrasound? What is it? What's down there?
We don't know. The zoo's protocol is clear. Observe, record, never investigate. It's not our place.
Not your place? The apes have been telling us for decades, and you've been hiding it.
Some things are better left unseen. You have your map. Use it wisely, but don't go looking for what's at the end of it.
But instead of leaving, Jennifer waited, and Dave, after a long silence, pulled a second folder from the cabinet.
This is why we don't investigate. The first time we tried, we found this.
The sonar image showed a massive, indefinite shape on the ocean floor, faint but undeniably structured.
It wasn't a geological formation. It had symmetry, edges.
Every decade, the signal gets a little stronger. The bearings shift because it's moving, growing.
He laid out several sonar shots in sequence. In each, the shadow was larger, as if the thing were breathing.
The apes weren't just reacting to a signal. They were tracking a living thing, something that had been down there for decades. It's alive.
He nodded slowly. And whatever it is, it's waiting for something, just like they are.
The ocean image on the map seemed to ripple, as if stirred by a distant, unseen pulse. Back in the locker room, Jennifer sat alone on the bench long after Dave had gone.
The photos pinned inside her locker felt different now. A younger version of herself, oblivious, smiling beside animals that knew more than anyone.
Her reflection in the dark glass of the ape house door overlapped with the apes' silhouettes, as if they were all part of the same vigil.
The burden of knowing felt like a stone in her chest, but also a strange, fierce purpose.
She stared into her small hand mirror, seeing something new in her own eyes, a resolve that hadn't been there a week ago.
She couldn't unknow it, couldn't unsee the convergence, the sonar shadows. This was her zoo now, her responsibility.
She returned to the night shift that evening, stepping into the quiet with a new gravity.
Every enclosure was a listening post, every gaze a compass. The apes were not just animals, they were sentinels.
She watched them that night with a keeper's vigilance and a guardian's quiet terror.
Whatever was at the bottom of the Pacific, when it surfaced, she would be here. They all would.
That night, she walked the same pathways, but every shadow held weight.
The silence was no longer empty. It felt like a held breath.
She entered the ape house. The amber safety lights caught dozens of restless silhouettes. They weren't standing, but many were awake, gazing toward the glass with quiet intensity.
Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Dozens of tiny beacons fixed northwest.
A silverback approached the glass and pressed its massive hand flat against the pane. Jennifer lifted her own hand and placed it against the glass, palm to palm with the beast. The glass was cool, but through it, she felt the low rumble, a vibration too deep for hearing.
It was the same pulse she'd felt that first night, only stronger.
The ape stirred, shifting weight from foot to foot, but they did not stand. Not yet. She kept her vigil through the winter, and when Dave Kowalski retired that spring, he handed her the key.
This is yours now. You know the rules. Observe, record, never investigate, unless you are willing to carry the weight.
I'll carry it, whatever comes.
She ran her fingers over the faded entries, names she'd never met, but a duty they'd all shared.
17 times. I wonder what the 18th will bring.
She turned to the first blank page, dated it, and left the rest empty, waiting. Then she locked it in the cabinet, her hand steadier than Dave's had been. The logbook rested in the dark, next to the old photograph of keepers who once held it. Outside the window, the zoo settled into its nightly rhythm, the ape house a dark silhouette under the moon. And the vigil continued. One night, the air inside the ape house turned dense and electric, and she felt it, a pulse so deep it vibrated in her teeth.
The same infrasound. Stronger now, closer, like a bell tolling through the ocean floor.
The apes stirred. One by one, they rose from their resting positions, but they did not stand. Dozens of eyes turned toward the northwest glass, and a low, communal rumble rose from their throats.
Not yet. They were waiting for the moment, and so was she.
Outside, the Pacific lay still, but beneath the waves, a ripple spread from the convergence point. The zoo was silent, save for the heartbeat throb of the infrasound pulsing through the earth. Jennifer stood her ground, the weight of the logbook in her mind, the weight of the waiting in her bones. The rumble faded. The apes settled. But the message was clear. The 18th time was near. She looked northwest, toward the ocean, toward the thing that would soon rise. The screen faded to black, and the sound of distant surfacing filled the void.